Vicente Luque versus Geoff Neal takes place this weekend in the co-main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 59, Santos versus Hill, and I can't wait for this co-main event. This one is almost as big as the main event itself. I know which one I'd rather watch for 5 rounds, although I understand why they've put Santos versus Hill in the main event, just because of rankings and stuff like that. But this fight is going to be a great one. I think it's going to be an absolute classic, barn burner, back and forth. But I feel as though Geoff Neal is going to have the advantage over Vicente Luque in this matchup. We've got 2 top contenders. This is a big matchup in the welterweight division. The welterweight division right now it's got a little bit of a logjam at the top, but this is sort of like a securer position outside of that logjam before they get back into the top 5 of the welterweight division. You've got Vicente Luque at number 6, and of course Geoff Neal at number 13, so he's got a lot to gain by taking this matchup, and I respect Vicente Luque for taking this one, and I also believe Vicente Luque is one of those guys to where if he wins this one, he'll just be like, hey, Shavkat, even though we trained together, let's get it on. So maybe he won't be like that though, because he won't fight Burns for the same reason, but they're a bit of closer friends. Let's talk about the matchup. Vicente Luque, Geoff Neal. Luque's looking to bounce back after a very lackluster performance against Belal Muhammad. It might have been the only boring performance of his entire career, and that's mainly because he was fighting Belal Muhammad, and Belal Muhammad will do anything it takes to make a fight extremely boring, and he managed to do that against Vicente Luque. I actually picked him to do that against Vicente Luque as well. Can Luque beat Geoff Neal? I don't think he can. And that's the problem that I'm having. Is this going to be a stand-up match? Yes, it is going to be a stand-up fight, and that does benefit Vicente Luque because he doesn't have to worry about takedowns. We've seen with Luque, whenever he does have to worry about takedowns, like against Belal Muhammad and even against Michael Chiesa, he can have a little bit of hesitancy on the feet, and that can lead to his opponent somewhat getting the better of him on the feet here and there that shouldn't be getting the better of him on the feet, and then they get him down, and he has got good scrambles, and he knows how to stay safe on the ground, and he's good at not getting finished in those positions. But this is going to be a stand-up matchup. He doesn't really have to worry about takedowns, but he does have to worry about the power of Geoff Neal because Geoff Neal does have a lot of punch power here, and I feel as though he's very safe and technical, and that could keep him safe in this matchup against Vicente Luque. A lot of people make mistakes against Luque. They start having success on the feet, and then they get a little bit too wild, and then all of a sudden Luque's the winner. He's knocked you down. He's dash choked you. It's over. Nice job, dude. You've just messed it up for yourself. And that's what Vicente Luque can do to people. I feel as though I've got a good read on picking Vicente Luque's fights. But again, when you look at some of the people that have gotten wild on him, they've still had success in those matchups. And we've seen that with Nico Price. We've seen that with Brian Barberena. We've seen that with even Mike Perry as well, getting wild with Luque. He had a lot of success. Arguably should have won that matchup. Wonderboy, of course, schooled him on the feet after a tough first round for Wonderboy because they clashed heads and it rocked Wonderboy, and Luque sort of capitalized in the first round on that moment. But I feel as though Geoff Neal, and this is the craziest thing to me, even though he lost to Neil Magny, and that is horrible to even come out of my mouth. I hate saying that. Even though he lost to Neil Magny, I truly believe that was mainly because of the range, and he just couldn't really find his way on the inside, and Magny would shoot takedowns on him and try and get him down to the ground. I think this is going to be a very close quarters match between him and Geoff Neal, between him and Vicente Luque, and I think that Geoff Neal's straight punches are just going to get the advantage in those close range encounters. Luque's going to be swinging hooks, Neal's going to be popping and moving and dipping his head out of range and throwing a straight right hand, and I feel as though that could cause some problems for Vicente Luque because Vicente Luque is a momentum-based striker. If he gets going, there's problems. If he can turn the tide a little bit and you can visibly see, hang on, this is kind of going Luque's way, there's a problem for opponents of Luque when that happens. He starts to build momentum. He starts to be like a snowball going downhill, building up more and more, and then all of a sudden it's finished and it's over. I just feel as though Geoff Neal has the kind of power and the composure that Woodley doesn't. He's got the power that Woodley has. Maybe. I don't know, though. He doesn't swing like it because he has the composure. He still has power and danger on the feet. So it's going to keep Luque honest and make sure Luque can't really build momentum and get his stuff going because Luque's a big favourite here. I like the underdog of Geoff Neal. I think this is a very close matchup, and arguably, listen, Geoff Neal could have lost to Santiago Ponzinibbio. That was a very close fight between them, but Geoff Neal got the win based on the more damaging shots, I guess. Didn't see that watching it live, but Santiago Ponzinibbio is very good at straight punches as well. I feel as though Luque's just going to be swinging too much on the outside, And I've just watched so many people that I don't feel like need to be making it that close against him, make it close against him. I think Luque is the perfect sort of guy to beat like explosive grapplers. Bilal Muhammad isn't really an explosive grappler. He'll play the range game. He'll move around. He's like a cardio-based grappler. I think Covington would have some success against Luque in this department as well, just by wearing him down. I feel as though he's good against explosive grapplers who throw power shots and get a little bit reckless, like Kamaru Usman. I just don't think he's going to be good against Geoff Neal. I think Geoff Neal's going to be too composed, staying on the outside, throwing straight shots down the center, and I think that's going to frustrate Luque. I think Luque's going to have success as the fight goes on, but I know for a fact the first round is going to go to Geoff Neal. He might rock Luque a couple of times and they get scrappy, and then Geoff Neal sort of recomposes himself and has a bit of a good first round and sort of takes that 1-10-9 Geoff Neal. Second round happens. First 3 minutes or so of the second round, Geoff Neal's still having his own way, stumbling Luque with a couple of straight shots while Luque's looking to swing big powerful shots. Maybe Luque lands a couple of kicks in round 2, starts to build up some leg kicks. Geoff Neal starts kicking back at the arms of Luque and pinning the arms to his body, and then landing some straight shots as well, seeing as Luque doesn't really want to open up and throw hooks back as much. And then towards the end of round 2, maybe Luque starts to build up some kicks, leg kicks, body kicks, starts to walk down Geoff Neal a little bit, lands some good shots of his own, and they start trading in the pocket and sort of like mugging each other and stuff like that, and landing some good shots on each other. But Geoff Neal's already done enough at the start of round 2 to sort of make that round his. 2 rounds to Geoff Neal. Then the third round, I can see Luque having a lot of success, and Geoff Neal starting to slow down, and Luque starting to have his own way. I just feel like Geoff Neal moves a lot on his feet, and he's got very good footwork, underrated footwork with guys that don't have crazy long reaches, like Neil Magny, and crazy rangy techniques. I feel as though Geoff Neal, his footwork's underrated. He springs in and out quite a bit. He's got a very weird footwork style, and I think that's going to be difficult for Luque to get his combinations off on like he did against Bryan Barberena, who was just sort of staying in the pocket, throwing nothing jabs at him, and even Nico Price was just running in and throwing combos and leaving himself open. Whereas Geoff Neal springs back and forth. He's got a very like slightly more athletic, maybe a bit slower Masvidal style of stand-up with a little bit more power in his straight punches. And I think that's going to cause Luque to get a little bit messed up and mess up his timing and not let him get his momentum going. And that's going to be a problem for him. I've picked Luque's fights pretty well across his career. I hope he wins this one. I know you guys know this, but Luque has been my favourite fighter for a very long time. I've always said he is the pound-for-pound most exciting per-fight fighter on the roster. Other than that Bilal Muhammad last fight where I picked him to lose, he has an absolutely amazing resume of constantly entertaining fights. But you shouldn't need a finish in the third round against Bryan Barberena. You shouldn't need a finish due to a swollen eyeball against Nico Price in the third round. You shouldn't need those moments. I know that Geoff Neal and Nico Price rocked each other in their fight, but Neal put him away. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the difference. And I feel like he would smash Bryan Barberena and put him away. And he smashes Mike Perry and puts him away. I know that was after the Vicente Luque matchup, and Luque kind of messed him up, but still, you shouldn't need to get a gifted bad decision against Mike Perry if you're really that quality of opponent. And people are going to say, oh, well, Ponzinibbio had a close fight. Ponzinibbio decimated Perry before Luque did. Dominated him. Scored him over 3 rounds. And Luque really struggled. And I don't like that. I like Luque. I just think there's a select level of fighters where he will always get the better of them because they're sloppy and he can beat them in those exchanges. But then there's another select level of fighters who can keep it patient and calm and strategic that can get the win over him. And that's why I'm picking the underdog of Geoff Neal here. The winner of this matchup, in my opinion, is looking at a matchup against, let me see what they are, number 6 Vicente Luque versus number 13 Geoff Neal. The winner of this one is, if it's Luque, he's probably going to stay at number 6. And if it's Geoff Neal, he's probably going to move up to number 9 or 10. Somewhere below Sean Brady, below Jorge Masvidal, and then Luque's going to drop down to 11 and everyone's going to get shimmied down, I reckon. But, I don't know. I'd like to see Geoff Neal redeem the Neil Magny loss, regardless. But I don't want to see that next if he wins. Maybe if he loses, they could do that rematch and then the winner could take on an up-and-comer or something like that. But I feel like if Geoff Neal wins this one, we could be looking at maybe... He's already got schooled by Wonderboy. I think it's Shavkat Rakhmonov. If Geoff Neal wins... Geoff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, because you know for a fact Wonderboy ain't fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. In my opinion, Wonderboy should bite the bullet and fight Mikel Pereira. He's a striker. He's going to strike with you. why not strike with him? I feel like that would be the best move for Wonderboy to make right now in case he gets another grappler that's coming up the rankings. So, yeah. Maybe if Luque wins and he gets a good dominant win and it's a really big performance, maybe if Edwards loses to Usman, then they could do Edwards versus Luque in the welterweight division 2 because they've already had their first fight and Edwards beat him and they could make that rematch and justify it that way. But I'm really looking forward to this matchup, man. The welterweight division's got a little bit of a logjam going on at the top, but there's going to be some fights going on outside of it that are going to clear some things up, I imagine. I just don't even know who Shavkat's going to fight. I reckon they're going to do Burns versus Masvidal. That seems like a fight that they could make. Burns is a massive name right now, and he's got some name value. So if you're going to put Masvidal against anyone other than Conor McGregor, I guess it would be Gilbert Burns. You can't really put Burns against Luque or Shavkat because they're training partners. It's a problem, man. The welterweight division is a bit of a problem right now. Edwards shouldn't even be number 2, really. Let's be real. Who's he beating? RDA? Wow. Crazy, dude. I don't know. Bit of a weird one, isn't it? But that's how it is in a lot of divisions these days. Kamaru Usman, I hope he fights some fresh opponents next. And arguably, Covington should be next for the winner of this one. Like, Covington, I keep giving him a pass on certain situations because of the court case, but where's Covington? He needs to come back and fight a top contender. I was even mentioning in my last video about Poirier and Chandler. Maybe Covington versus McGregor is next, but no. We need to see Covington fight a top contender on the come-up, and maybe if Luque wins, that'll entice him because Luque's a bit higher value than a Geoff Neal fight. But if Geoff Neal wins, I wouldn't mind that matchup either. And I think he's favoured in a lot of those matchups as well because he's got good grappling, but maybe he gets chinned. That's the question with Covington. But looking forward to Geoff Neal's win. I'm going to say 29-28. The third round gets real hairy for him. Luque starts landing some big shots, pressuring him down, landing big shots again. Geoff Neal's pushing him up against the cage. Luque knees him to the body and separates and tries landing more big shots. They both start trading. Luque gets the better of it. He starts walking him down again, but it's a little bit too little too late. I think if this was a 5-rounder, I'd pick Luque by 4th or 5th round finish. I just don't think he's going to be able to get going early enough. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Geoff Neal gets the upset. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.